Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of vocal harmonies. We're going to continue it listening to a track from the band The Deer Hunter, which is a band that I've wanted to get into and haven't had a chance to. This is from Act 5, and that's actually one of the reasons I want to dig into them, is because they seem to only do concept albums and they're all connected. So we're diving pretty deep into the story of this whatever, the Deer Hunter, I suppose. We're looking at the intro track to the album, Regress, followed by the first proper track, The Moon Awake. Alright, let's dive in and see what's up. Yeah, beautiful.
Slave to the seeds you've sown, lost in the leaves. So we'll depart goodbye to your stars.
I love how the moving part is tossed around between different instruments. Ooh, what a shift already. Very beautiful and graceful light to this funky, groovy, very low-end weightiness. Yeah, very syncopated.
At the heels of a gaze, the eyes betrayed in the arcade. Misdirection pervades and my image fades of you. Could we return to the hymn of the lake? Brave refrains of impossible love, not
dude, their two timbres work together so well. Just sort of blend into a single voice. Call and response. There's call and response in the vocals and in the instrumentation. They get really playful, the snare does, with its syncopation. Yeah, nice little ornamentation there. On both sides, we have like a chiming and then like a sound. I'm not sure what it was. It's interesting that the female vocal lines up with the left hand guitar until. Oh, they're not doing it. The last repetition, though, at the end, it lined up with the right hand piano. Very light and airy with the synthesizer idea in the backgrounds, providing this a ton of movement.
Just couldn't see the trouble I create. He never had agreed to carry on. When sins of sons to fathers come too heavy is the weight. The spirit split.
Yes, a nice resolution there. Trust our stories and can bring redemption for Oh, so instead of resolving that chord progression, they left it ambiguous to go into this interesting section. We got a slight accelerando here. Yeah, we do. And I guess that goes into the next track. All right. Very interesting song. I do think it just misses the mark for the theme, though. There's definitely some aspects where there are vocal harmonies, but for the most part, they seem to be doing different things. I would not say that that was a majority or primarily utilized vocal harmony in there. But that's fine. There's still vocal harmony. I really enjoyed what they were doing. And like I said, the two vocalists, their vocals, it might be production, it might be just their natural timbres. They go together so well. I'd mentioned, I think it was in Regress, that the two vocals sounded so good together that it sort of melded into a single voice. It's kind of crazy how I found it increasingly difficult to separate them. So yeah, let's dig into a little bit of the stuff going on here. First of all, I want to talk about atmosphere because I think that they are nailing it here. And it's a lot of little things. First of all, they have really interesting sort of jazzy chord progressions. It would not surprise me to find out that they utilize chords a little bit outside of what is standardly utilized in pop music. Probably, we're talking major, minor, maybe some dominant sevenths, and calling it a day. Those are the three primary styles of chords that we see in a lot of music. And I do think, like I've said before, I don't really have an ear for pulling out tones or chords. It's something that I've tried to work on, and my ears are just that's not what they do. I'm very far from that. But I can certainly tell chord characteristics, and there are some chords in here that are not standard sounding. They're kind of spicy. They got some interesting elements to them, and usually when I hear stuff that sounds like it is in jazz, and jazz utilizes a lot of really interesting uh, chordal structures. Outside of mostly jazz standards tend to be a little bit more conservative with their type of keys that they work within, but you get in stuff like bebop and you're looking at some really weird chords. And there's a couple of chords in here that I think have a little bit of extra spice or zest to them. And I would be interested in hearing, or at least seeing, some of these um, chord progressions written down, kind of seeing how they play off of each other, because they have some really multifaceted emotional aspects to these progressions that I think absolutely fit in with sort of this amorphous atmosphere that they're going for in both of these songs. There's definitely this haunting supernatural element to both of the tracks. It kind of feels like a foggy forest. That's kind of the vibe I got for both of them. Um, but there's also like introspection. Anybody else getting that? Like being shown a mirror, having oneself, you know, reflective element. Not necessarily. I don't know. Pensiveness maybe is the word I'm looking for. Not necessarily reflection um, as the key element, but pensiveness, thoughtfulness. Um, this element of looking into why things are, just being thoughtful about it, I suppose. It is this sort of supernatural thinking element. And it kind of goes through this entire 7 minutes of song, 8 minutes of song, Regress and The Moon Awake at the same time. Um, and I absolutely love that because it has this sort of adventurous vibe to it, right? It has that upbeat energy, and it has the sort of the swooning vocal style where we have a lot of these really nice waves in the melodic structure, the way that the melody is created and played. It has these nice peaks and valleys, both in how the notes rise, when they fall, how long we stay on notes. There's really nice volume articulation that has this ebb and flow to how the melody is performed, both in the lead instruments and in the lead vocals. It just has a lot of forward momentum, but also this element of sort of staying in place. Like I said, both songs kind of have this overall vibe that doesn't really change, but there's a lot of momentum to get out of this vibe. We even see this in somewhere in the Moon Awake, in the middle somewhere. I mentioned that a lot of the song kind of had this really nice sort of static groove to it going on, and then we had these long drawn out notes. Might have been in the oohs and ahs section, but we had a synth going on in the background that was like firing 16th notes or eighth notes or something. Just had a lot of energy, a lot of drive in it. Like it wanted to take the song somewhere, but the song was, it was pretty happy where it was, just kind of chilling in this vibe. Um, so there's a lot of forward momentum in the song in how the melodies are played, what kind of energy the melodies are showcasing, and then underlying movement as far as rhythmic structures. But the vibe of the song just really wants to stay where it is, and it has this, like I said, supernatural kind of pensive thoughtfulness going on. There's I don't know if there's melancholy in it or not. I tend to intertwine pensiveness and melancholy. They're very similarly felt emotions for me when I think about them, but there is a strict distinction. Pensiveness is just looking at the past. Melancholies tend to be possibly, a feeling that might get applied to looking at the past, especially if you're looking at past mistakes or regrets or stuff like that. So they are intertwined, or they can be intertwined, but it's not necessarily how it has to be. You can also well, I was gonna say you can also have happy memories, but typically when you think about them, there's a little bit of melancholy, and that they're past tense. They're not present. So yeah, melancholy and pensiveness just kind of go hand in hand usually. So I have a hard time separating them. So I'm not sure if what I'm hearing here is melancholy, but it's definitely thoughtfulness, and I'm getting a thoughtfulness of the past kind of element from the chord progression and the way that the melody plays on top of the chords. And it's a really cool jam. I dig it. It's an atmosphere that doesn't. It just suits the song. Like I said, we'll get into the lyrics in a bit. We'll see if there's anything that is connected thematically or narratively, because I know the Deer Hunter, this is act 5 of a big concept thing, so I'm probably going to, the lyrics are going to go over my head. I'm coming into a story at like 80% in or something. I have a lot of backstory I'm missing, so I don't know if the lyrics are going to make sense, but yeah, I'm absolutely getting these vibes of this intent, this emotion here. And we even had the bit of that spooky opening with Regress that kind of led into this sort of spooky element that moved into this pensiveness. So I'm pretty confident about that analysis as far as the emotional aspect that the songs are going for. Now, here's something that I absolutely love about the Deer Hunter, and that is their instrumentation. They know how to utilize a lot of different instruments in a variety of ways, and when and how to use specific timbres and styles. And we can see both sides of the coin right here. Well, not both. They actually have more sides of the coin because we've heard them do jazz, we've heard them do like some post-hardcore stuff before, so they're all over the place. So here at least we get to see two sides of them, with the introduction being this beautiful, whimsical sort of light on their feet, string and is it string and piano? I think this is the open is more of a classical vibe though, right? And it's very, very light. We don't have very many heavy aspects. We don't have lower notes really pulling it down. It is sort of a very sparse, light, flowy style of playing that I think they did a fantastic job pairing the strings with the piano for. And the interesting thing is it contrasts so heavily with when we get to Moon Awake, and it is more traditionally rock style. We bring in electric guitars, we bring in the drum kit, we got the bass, but it doesn't feel divorced. The two sections feel very similar. And part of that I'm going to say is probably due to the vocals. Having at least one concept that we can tie between the two sections is going to be huge for helping them feel connected in a way, to not feel entirely, divorced from each other. So we have the vocals going. Man, the vocals are so good. They have this forward placed rock style, but the female vocals, at least in here, at least in these two tracks, is more of a head voice. And like I said, I just love how they kind of mix together. But it also provides this both energy and levity to the vocal performance, especially when they line up and they're harmonizing with each other. You get the projection and the force of the forward play singing, but you also get that airiness and vulnerability from more of the head voice from the female. And when they, like I said, they line up into something that sounds almost like a single voice to me. The timbres overlap just very cleanly, and you get all of the power of the one style with all of the positivity and upliftingness of the other. and it's this beautiful duality in the vocal performance. But anyway, so we have the vocals that are tied over between the two, and they kind of um, help tie things over. But also the atmosphere is very similar between the two. It would not surprise me if they were using a very similar or maybe even the same chordal structure for or key even. Doesn't have to be necessarily the same chord progression, but the key for both of these songs. And yeah, it's really interesting, at least to me, to hear them have these drastic shifts in instrumentation and for it to kind of flow and just work together. They do a fantastic job at finding what characteristics are necessary to ensure that cohesion happens and dialing into them to ensure that it isn't a jarring transition from the first track to the second, especially since narratively it seems like, and uh, even musically, they tie into each other. There's no gap between them as far as playing the record from start to finish. So yeah, it's just really interesting. The other thing is that we get that odd ending where we completely change things up, and I'm not quite sure what's going on there. It feels very disjointed, at least to me. We have a lot of the similar instrumentation from the beginning of the second track, but oh, see, I didn't catch this. The song is called "The Moon Slash Awake," and I wonder if the moon is the first, what, like 4.5 minutes of the song, and then "Awake" is that ending that felt off to me. But I really like the way they transitioned into it. I talked about it a little bit during the reaction. I want to touch on it again. Um, so the moon, the song, the first movement of this track ends with this nice big uplift. All right, so we have this chord progression. We have a leading, or yeah, we have a passing tone. We move into the leading tone, which is a little bit higher. We get this really nice bit, and we should be resolving down to the resolution of this chord progression, and instead we hold on that leading tone. We don't get the resolution. We don't get the nice conclusion that we're expecting. Instead, we stay on this note, we hold it for a little bit, and then that unsettling element, that instability leads us into this new segment, awake. And I think it's an interesting way to go about it because they could have just done a very hard stop. They could have did the leading tone into the resolution and then went straight into the next section, and it would have been just as jarring, but it wouldn't have been as narratively interesting just because we have this instability. Whatever awake is supposed to represent, it's very different from the moon. And they allowed the music to kind of showcase that that was going to happen. There's some foreshadowing there that where we were not going where we were expecting, where we were supposed to go. We're going to something new. And it's just a really nice way to go ahead and do that. If you're going to have something that is very jarring like that, especially in a song that has, for the most part, been, very, very flowy. Everything's kind of gotten together. When you're going to break that up for a moment, yeah, toss in a little bit of musical element to showcase that that's what's happening. So it doesn't just happen in the structure; it happens in the music as well. Just a really phenomenal way to go about doing that. All right, and as for lyrics go, yeah, this is this is going right over my head. There's a lot of expected knowledge here into characters and their histories, but what I am looking at right here, I'm looking at a synopsis of The Moon Awake, and it says the main character from Act 4, realizes that maybe things aren't as great as they should be, looks back over his life to see if he's been a force for good, and he considers what his younger self would think of what became of him. So, yeah, pensiveness, melancholy. Both of those are kind of running into this. Now, Regress is a little different. It's more of like a narrative choir kind of idea. I'm kind of getting. I don't know. Apparently, these oracle characters are singing right here, and I don't know who they are, but to me, I'm getting like the Greek choir who do the narration for plays, but they also seem to be a group of characters in the story. I don't know. That what's going on here doesn't seem to line up with the vibes, the emotions of the atmosphere, but it could just be that they're setting up what's going to be happening in the moon, which is why we're already beginning to explore this sound, this feeling, this atmosphere. So yeah, I mean, just looking at some of these lyrics, first of all, I like some of the way that things are said and the rhyming schemes. There's a really nice flow and lyricism going on here, even if I don't understand exactly what everything's alluding to or what the vocalist is singing about specifically. I like the way that the words flow. But just this whole concept of at least a five album, maybe there's a sixth act or a seventh act, I don't know. This came out in 2016, so I mean they've had time to put out a new one, I suppose, if this isn't the final one. But anyways, there's at least five acts, five albums worth of music telling the story, and I am a sucker for that. Even if it's not great, even if it's not a great story, I'm like, yeah, I just listened to a story in music. So yeah, I want to dig into this. I know this wasn't super in depth. The two songs selected were not super deep. I know they were selected for their vocal performance aspect, but I think I went into a little bit of detail into the musicality of it and the atmosphere and kind of what emotions they were playing at, and they did line up with the lyrics. So I'm pretty happy with my reading of that. So that's where we're going to end it today. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up with your comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this or not. Let me know if you have anything to add. And I was going to say, let me know if you think I should listen to it. Yeah, you probably do. I've seen a lot of people tell me I need to listen to all five acts. I know I need to listen to all five acts. It's definitely on my list. But if you want to tell me anyways, go ahead and put those comments down there. If nothing else, they help the YouTube algorithm. When you're done commenting, you can head up to the description box, and there is a link for Linktree. It'll take you to this menu right here, has everything related to the channel. You can follow me on Twitter, join the Discord community, purchase the merch. I was going to do my typical thing, but I'm not wearing my merch today, so you can buy some merch, you can submit special selections, support the channel through Patreon, all sorts of stuff. Above the description box, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. Alright, we got one more video coming out in about 2 minutes. It's going to be our special selection for the day, which is a 28-minute epic from a band called Carfagen. Yeah, if that sounds exciting, go ahead and wait around for that. It's only another 90 seconds. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC. As usual, we'll be looking at our second to last vocal harmonies track as well as another special selection. All right, until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.